Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk about Teofimo Lopez because he got a rather controversial unanimous decision over Jamaine Ortiz last night. If you're in America, it was in the early hours of today. If you're in the UK, like I am. And there are lots of people saying, now, what's wrong with this kid? You know, he's only 26. If you look at him on the way up, you know, he was beating, who did he beat? Nakatani. That was a unanimous decision, impressive performance. Then he got rid of Richard Comey in 2 rounds. And, of course, he beat Vasyl Lomachenko, unanimous decision. And then it all went wrong because he lost to Kambosos in that shocking upset of the year. One of the best fights I've seen from the last decade, certainly. I love that fight. And since then, he's fought, he's had a couple of decisions. Sandor Martin, who came in with 40 wins, 2 defeats, no draws, was on paper looked like he was a real threat, and so it turned out to be. And that was only a split decision win. That was only over 10 rounds, not 12, by the way. Then, of course, he beat Josh Taylor, who, to be honest with you, at super lightweight looks like he hasn't got more than about 4 rounds in him. He just looks very, very weight drained at 140. But that's not Teo's fault. Teo won that fight fair and square. And then, of course, we've got the Jamaine Ortiz fight earlier today or last night, whichever, depending on your time zone. Now, look, I think there are several points we have to make here. First of all, we've got to ask the question, did the up-and-coming Ortiz, were we sort of overrating him somewhat? Because there's no doubt that getting rid of Richard Comey in 2 rounds, beating Nakatani over 12, they were good. They were, very, very impressive, results and good performances as well. He beat Diego Magdaleno over 7, knocked him out in 7. He was looking the part, and of course he was at the time he was only was he like 21 or something, 22. But once he beat Lomachenko, did that result sort of flatter to deceive? Because Lomachenko, it's kind of common knowledge that he did have a shoulder injury which required surgery afterwards. And Lomachenko, even though it was a unanimous decision, I think one of the cards was ludicrously wide. They gave like every round to Teo, or 10 or 11 rounds to Teo. I didn't agree with that at all. The other 2 were comfortable, 116, 112, 117, 111. I could live with that. I could live with that. But did that kind of flatter him, Teo, that win, because of the injury to Lomachenko? Now, since then, with those 2 controversial decisions over Martin and Ortiz, you would have to say that those styles just don't suit what Teofimo Lopez is best at, because he likes people to come to him, and obviously Sandor Martin and Ortiz, to a lesser extent Ortiz, can exploit his technical limitations. Because there's no doubt that Lopez does have technical limitations. He likes to come straight in the front door, almost jumping in. You saw what happened in the opening round with Kambosos. He got clocked and he hit the floor. And everyone's like, oh my God, look at that. Well, Kambosos he doesn't hit hard. He's not a one-punch hitter by any means. But he can fire bunches of very accurate, stinging punches at someone who's coming at him. He'll struggle with the Devin Haney's of the world. Of course he will. Most people do, if not everyone. But against someone like Teofimo Lopez, jumping in, being extremely cavalier, reckless, sometimes lean over the front foot, not even bothering the jab, sometimes just firing constant power punches, walking after the guy, not really cutting off the ring, using decent footwork. I mean, Lopez's footwork he seems to skip in, or sometimes he jumps in. There's he loses his shape very easily, is what I'm trying to say. And someone like George Kambosos will have fun all day long. Now, if Lomachenko had been fully fit with two working hands, 2 working levers, maybe he could have beaten Teo Lopez. But again, I don't want to take nothing away from Lopez, because I do like the fact that he has this "I'll fight anyone" attitude. When he was a kid, he was taking on Lomachenko. Before that, he was fighting Comey, who a lot of people thought was a dangerous guy, sort of high risk, low reward. Nakatani was at the time a very, very good fighter. And then he's taken on Sandor Martin and Jamaine Ortiz, who on paper, he and his father, we'll come to his father in a minute, they must look and think, these guys, these are crafty, almost snidey guys who are going to try and pinch rounds. Not so much Martin. Martin's always he's always had a good back foot game. With Ortiz, I mean, he moved way too much. I made it 115, 113 to Ortiz as a win, but I don't like his style. I did think he beat Lopez, but at the same time, I'm not going to, cry into my latte over it because, to be honest with you, that style of constantly, running, he does spend an awful lot of time running. Interestingly, though, here's an interesting point, though, that a lot of people haven't mentioned. During that fight, when Lopez actually decided to back off, showing a sign of frustration that Ortiz wouldn't stand still, Ortiz went straight at him, almost as if to say, okay, you're backing off, now I'll come to you. You stop running, you stop moving forward, you move backwards, I'll come to you. You move forward, I'll start off. This seemed to be Ortiz's tactics. And yeah, I just definitely think he won that fight. And also, a lot of people haven't mentioned, Ortiz was southpaw in that fight, wasn't he? Because I think he's normally an orthodox fighter. I'll have to check on that. I remember watching it thinking, I thought he was, but I could have that wrong. But was he southpaw in that fight? If so, that was a nice little tactic that probably threw Lopez off. But anyway, the point is that you can't knock the quality of his opposition. And you have to accept that some of the style matchups were not great. However, having said that, after the Sandor Martin fight, when it was so evident what was wrong, did Lopez and his dad go away and work on those things? Because judging by the Ortiz fight, no, they didn't. It was just another case of go out there, put the heat on him, chase him, throw power punches, try and knock him out. Never mind how crafty and how cheeky Ortiz was being. They should have learned from the Martin fight. Sandor Martin is a nightmare matchup for most fighters. Even for for pressure fighters who have excellent, footwork. He'd probably give, Bud Crawford a few rounds, Martin, because he doesn't hit hard, but he's so damn crafty. He uses his intelligence. He knows what he can do well, and he knows what he can't do, and he works within the parameters of that mindset. With Teofimo Lopez, you would expect him, after having a close shave with Martin, to have gone away and worked on things like his footwork, how to cut the ring off properly, those little half steps, those little, stutter steps, to feint more, to jab more, something as basic as the jab. You want to see a jab from a guy called Lopez. Now, it seems to me that Lopez has so many different talents, so many components, but he just can't seem to put them together for guys who are movers. People that come up, I would love to see someone like Subriel Mateus fight Teofimo Lopez. What a fight, what an explosion that would be, because they're both going to come towards each other, and a brilliant fight. I think Mateus might take Lopez out, but, I wouldn't rule Lopez out. Lopez can win that fight, definitely. But when it comes to movers, you've got to have a plan B, you've got to have a plan C. And that means if you're going to take these guys on rather than avoid them, you've got to do your homework. You've got to go into the gym. You've got repetition. Work on your footwork. Work on holding in shape more. Work on jabbing more. Concentrate on the feints, the little half steps, the stutter steps. Keep the guy who's moving honest. Keep him contained so that he continues moving. And when you get close, he's not tempted to clock it. Because Ortiz was doing that. He was pinching rounds, nicking rounds with occasional little 2 or 3 punch flurry up close. He would move in, when, like I said, when Lopez was backing off, Ortiz would come in, land his own little flurry. It's enough to pinch the round if the other guy, for all his pressure, for all his aggression, isn't doing anything. So I think there are definitely some technical flaws with Teofimo Lopez that have not been worked on. He's 26 years old. And, of course, we can't do a video about Teofimo Lopez without mentioning his father. Because his father, I said about the Kambosos fight, that is probably, I can't think of worse corner work in a world title fight than I saw from Ortiz Sr. It was absolutely appalling. He didn't have a clue what to do. And to be honest with you, in this fight with Ortiz, he didn't really give, not that I heard anyway, admittedly, I mean, I was watching a Spanish broadcast of the fight, and I was trying to listen in between rounds, and I didn't hear Lopez Sr. say anything. So he never gave any advice that was going to assist his son in getting close to Ortiz, and it was just the same old. The only repetition I'm seeing with Teofimo Lopez is that he keeps repeating his mistakes. In the gym, he should be learning how to rectify those mistakes, and he's just not doing it. So yeah, this sounds like I'm hating on Lopez. I'm honestly not, because I think he does have a lot of natural talent and athleticism. He's got a lot of components, a lot of good individual moves, but he's not putting them together. And the bits that are missing, those strands that link everything together, probably are more to do with his feet than his fists. I mean, he's certainly not thinking as much as he should either. He's not being crafty enough. Because when you've got talent like that, you know, you should be setting traps for people. When did you ever see Teo set a trap for an opponent, draw him in, or I don't know, feint to the body and then come up to the head, or anything like anything that you can think of? I'm not seeing it with Teofimo Lopez, and that's a real shame. It really is. But yeah, he got out of jail again. He got the win over Ortiz. What do you think? What do you think about Lopez? How far do you think he can go? I think he needs to be in his dad as his trainer and get a proper trainer in. I don't know who that would be. Who would that be? I don't know. I suppose the obvious names are people like Bomac, aren't they? And Eddie Reynoso is another one. Very good. Actually, when you think about it, Reynoso with Canelo's footwork for the first, at least the first 5 years of his professional career, wasn't that impressive. It was too slow. He was too cement-footed. And Reynoso worked on it to the point where Canelo's footwork is actually, even though he's not quick, he positions himself well. And Lopez is still young enough. He's 26. Maybe Reynoso's the man. I don't know. I've never trained a fighter in my life, so I can only sort of speculate about it. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, as always. And please, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. It takes a second. Just poke that little subscription button. Thanks a lot. And also like the video as well. All right. Thanks a lot for your time. I hope you like the video. Take care. And I'll catch you later. Bye for now.